so I'll walk you through it. This presentation, if you would like it, there's a ton of really good information. I'm going to keep this. This is a learning experience for me too. I went a little deeper into vitamin D than I have in the past. I'm a total geek. So if you want this presentation, I have a tablet and a piece of paper over here. At the end, if you leave your name and email address, I'll send it to you. Also the bullet points. So my name is Hollie Udvornocky. Anybody that can spell my last name at the end of the presentation will receive a free sauna session. I'm the owner of the Holistic Wellness and Detox Center, Blood and Thermal Imaging, and also Bioenergetic Nutrition. I'm a functional nutritional therapy practitioner, also a certified thermographer, and an energy healer. And I do all of that because I needed all of those things to help myself. I got really sick years back, and nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. So I went on a pretty interesting journey to find my way back to health. I focus a lot on digestive health and wellness, so you'll see a lot of references about digestion in this presentation today. So that's a little bit about me, and is everybody feeling good today? Yeah. And like I said earlier, I feel bad. The weather's so nice. I'm actually stealing vitamin D away from you, so I'll try to get through it quick so you can go outside and play. All right. So vitamin D, the missing link. I can't see the screen because of the sun, so if I'm looking down here, that's because I can't see my computer. So what I want to impress on you guys is that it's not as simple as taking a supplement. So the missing link to vitamin D, there's actually many missing links, and so we'll cover all of those today. So,
can you speak up a little bit? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Most New Yorkers who are not used to the Southern accent.
I grew up here, and I don't really have a Southern accent. I don't know what happened to me. My parents were from Ohio. So when I moved to California when I was 17, I got a job, and I used to have to speak over a loudspeaker. And people would laugh at me here because I didn't have a Southern accent, but apparently in California I did. So I would be like, Lauren, you have a call on line 5, and the whole office would go, line 5. So then I put it on thick so that I would be really special. And I pretended. I'm really good at doing impressions. So yeah, just say volume up if my voice is low. So before we begin, something that I just kind of want to sort of lay out for you guys is just to watch where your mind tends to go, because oftentimes we tend to want to label everything as good or bad, right or wrong, black or white, high or low. So just kind of watch, because I think we've been programmed a little bit with some of these vitamins and information about vitamin D. Try to keep an open mind as we go through the program. So the common belief, what we're told, and this is not untrue, vitamin D is essential. It supports bones and immunity. Supplementation is beneficial, and higher levels equal better health. That's not wrong, but it's not always exactly true either. So what I actually see in practice is that some people do better with vitamin D supplementation, but some people feel worse. Some people already have enough, but their bodies just can't use it. Some people are creating imbalances due to over supplementation. So during COVID, people were like taking gobs and gobs of vitamin D, and for some people that might have been good, but I was like, oh, this is gonna be really bad in a couple of years. We do a lot of different lab tests, so I see sometimes what happens when people are over supplementing with vitamin D, and we'll talk about that some more. So it's not just a vitamin. Vitamin D is really cool. It's actually a hormone or a pro-hormone. It's a signaling molecule that talks to your body and tells it to do things. So vitamin D is really interesting that way. I'm going to try to turn this way just a little bit without breaking it. So it's an intelligent signaling molecule. It influences hormone health, overall health, and multiple functions in the body. It does regulate calcium and mineral balance. We all know that. It modulates immune responses. It influences gene expression and cellular signaling. So it turns on little light switches on and off in the body. It also helps to support muscle and nervous system function, and it helps to coordinate inflammation. So it does a lot of cool things for us. Sources of vitamin D. I really like this picture. I use ChatGPT. And it's so perfect because She's got sun, so we get vitamin D from the sun. Vitamin D is the sunshine vitamin. We also get it from primarily animal fat. So this lady here is eating a way too large portion of salmon. Typically our protein size should fit in the palm of our hand, so she's gonna have leftovers, or she'll give the rest to her husband like I do. But she's doing a lot of really good things here. So she's eating salmon. She's also got some leafy greens here. They look like potentially like arugula, which is a bitter green. We need bitter foods to help us digest. She's also got some lemon in her water. Sometimes putting a little acidity with our meals helps us to support stomach acid production, enzyme production, helps us to digest better. So she's doing a lot of really cool things, and she's pretty. So we get vitamin D also from supplements. So those are the three main ways we get vitamin D. Some considerations. It's a fat-soluble vitamin. So vitamins A, D, E, and K are all fat-soluble vitamins, which means we get them from fat, which also means we have to digest fat in order to absorb them. If we can't do those things, then it might just come right out. So we need to have good liver gallbladder function. We need to have good pancreatic function to be able to make the enzymes to break down our food so we can absorb the nutrients from the food. Sunshine, we need usually between like 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes is really all you need. And the best time to go in the sun for vitamin D is between 10 and 2. Because that's when the UVB rays are more present and there's less of the harmful rays that actually burn our skin, the UVA rays. So the UVB rays are really strong between 10 and 2, or it's when your shadow is taller than you. I think that's how that works. Because when you're taller than your shadow, it means the sun's higher in the sky, and so you're gonna have more likely chance to burn. We also need to be able to convert vitamin D via sulfation. We'll talk about that. That happens in the liver and the kidneys. So vitamin D also requires cholesterol, the evil cholesterol. So back to the whole polarity conversation about good or bad, cholesterol actually isn't the devil. We need it to make our vitamin D work. So fat isn't necessarily bad. And sunshine is good, and sunscreen is also good, but sometimes it's nice to have at least 20 minutes without the sunscreen. So if you're gonna go outside to get your vitamin D, try not to lather up with your sunscreen for 20 minutes. If you're gonna be outside all afternoon, after 20 minutes, put your sunscreen on because you will burn. And that's where things can get a little hairy. So fun fact, the only vegetarian source of vitamin D is from UV exposed mushrooms. And then your body has to convert it because that's vitamin D2 and we need vitamin D3. I didn't know that, I thought that was cool. So 3 ways to get vitamin D, we just talked about them. The reason I put this slide here is because it helps to illustrate how your body actually uses the vitamin D that you get from these different sources. So we need sunlight, so the UVB, so when you're getting it from the sun, which is actually the most optimal way of doing it, the UV rays hit your skin and then they convert it into vitamin D3, which is chola for cholesterol, cholecalciferol. So that happens in the skin. And then it goes to your liver through your bloodstream, and then it gets converted into D3, which is calcidiol. It's 25-hydroxyvitamin D. And then that's the active form. So then it gets transported to the kidneys where it's converted into 125-dihydroxyvitamin D, which is called calcitriol. So that's one of the missing links that we'll talk about today. That's the final step. That's where the vitamin D is actually active in the body. But from there, it needs to actually hook up to a docking station, which is the vitamin D receptor. And the vitamin D receptor is really cool. We're going to talk about that too. The vitamin D receptor then becomes active when the vitamin D hooks up to it. And then the vitamin D receptor goes to find a new friend, the RXR receptor, which comes from vitamin A. So we need vitamin A for vitamin D to work. We need all of those things to come together at a certain point so that vitamin D receptor can do its job. From there, the vitamin D partnered with the RX goes into the cell where it hooks up to your DNA and starts turning things on and off. So that's through sun, which is the fully integrated context-driven version of it. The sun provides information. So it's not about just taking something and the thing goes around and knows what to do in the body. Our bodies are intelligent. They're reading information. So getting the information from the sun helps the vitamin D in your body to know what to do with it. So food path, so with the food path, the animals do part of the first two processes for us. Sometimes they'll convert it in their liver and kidneys and activate it, so they kind of help us out a little bit. We still have to send it through the liver, we still have to send it through our kidneys where the animals didn't do it for us, and then it's able to go into the cell and do its DNA magic. Supplements, you ingest it, it's already cholecalciferol. If you're getting vitamin D3, we do have to convert it in the liver and the kidneys to the active form, and then it can go on to do its receptor and DNA function. So it's useful, but context matters. The body is going, where did that come from? We're still getting it, it's still doing things, but the body's kind of like, huh, interesting, how did that get here? Through the digestive tract, it kind of knows that it's supposed to unlock nutrients and minerals, and so the body knows more what to do with it. But sometimes putting things in with a supplement, you're only getting the vitamin, you're not getting the cofactors. When we eat food, we are getting other things, we're not just getting vitamin D. There are other things going on with the food that help the vitamin D work, like vitamin A. So this is kind of an interesting slide. I put this here because I have one of these. It's a spurty vitamin D lamp. The bulbs in this emit vitamin D, UVB rays, I'm sorry. They emit UVB rays, not UVA rays. So in the wintertime, when you're not really out in the sun and exposing your skin as much, I will stand in front of our lamp. I call it the happy lamp at the office. I have it next to my sauna, so you go in the sauna for 30 minutes and then your pores and everything are nice and open. You're already in your birthday suit, and then you stand in front of this lamp and you get your vitamin D. So the happy lamp. So I'm kind of piggybacking off the happy lamp to talk about how vitamin D can support neurotransmitters. We need vitamin D to make serotonin and dopamine. So when vitamin D goes to the brain, it turns on certain genetic expressions that help to balance our mood, basically, to make and utilize serotonin and dopamine. It helps with cognitive function, emotional regulation. Vitamin D helps to support the nervous system. If we are all tense, sometimes we're crabby, right? So if we're nice and relaxed and calm, typically we're in a happier, better, more pleasant mood. Sunlight also regulates circadian rhythm. So again, that sun is kind of helping us. So when the sun comes up in the morning and we go outside and we let that sunlight come into our eyes, it wakes up our cortisol. It wakes up a lot of things that happen in our body. So you guys have heard of adrenal fatigue, right? Or anything about adrenals. So one way to help regulate the adrenal glands is to do just that, to go outside and get a little good dose of sunlight first thing in the morning. Because then the body wakes up and goes, okay, I know how much cortisol to make. I know that my melatonin, I don't need melatonin right now, it's time to get up. Things are happening. So nothing beats real sunshine, but the happy lamp is definitely a good option. And these are not very expensive. You can get them in the home if vitamin D is a concern for you. So sulfation, so I told you we were getting geeky, I'll go through this quickly, but vitamin D has to be sulfated. So that's a process that happens in our liver. There's this really fancy enzyme, sulfotransferase. It binds to the D3 and helps it to become water soluble so that it can move around in your body. Your body can turn it into the active form, it can turn it into the storage form, it can take it in different places. So we want to be able to have intelligent regulation of vitamin D, and this is part of the process. I don't know if it's true or not, but there's this really smart researcher, her name is Dr. Stephanie Seneff of MIT, and she's done a lot of research on vitamin D, and she said that, and I don't know if it's true, that vitamin D from the sun does not have to be sulfated. I think maybe it does, but maybe not as much than eating it or taking it by supplement. So she says that getting vitamin D from the sun is actually the most efficient way because there's one less step. So basically, there's one less thing that can go wrong. So it's kind of like buying a sports car with all the bells and whistles and all the fun electronic things. When I looked at it, I'm like, that's a lot of expensive stuff that can break.
Yeah.
Then if you buy kind of a basic car with a cranked window and sometimes you can fix that all by yourself. You don't even need to take it to the mechanic. So sunlight is kind of like that. It's the easier way to do it. Less things can go wrong. So 3 different forms of vitamin D. We talked about the mushroom form, that's D2. Ergocalciferol from UV exposed mushrooms. Vitamin D3 is cholecalciferol, so that's the vitamin D that gets conjugated in the liver with your cholesterol and in your skin. So that's what we get from food, supplements, or from the sun. 25-hydroxy-D is calcidiol. This is the storage form. So this is how your body stores vitamin D. When you go to the doctor and you get your blood panel from your physical every year, and they're measuring vitamin D, that's what they're measuring. 125-dihydroxy-D calcitriol is the active form. That's what your body actually uses. That's what binds to the vitamin D receptor and makes it do all the things that it does. Nobody's looking at that, and I think that's a mistake. You can test calcitriol. Usually the insurance companies won't pay for it, so the doctor won't even offer it to you, even if you ask, they're like, well, we don't do that. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's worth having, sometimes it's not. I do, for certain people, like to see that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I can usually add that to a lab panel for $100. It's really not that expensive. So most people are only testing the storage form. We talked about that. So relationships. So the active form and the storage form, the relationships are really important if you are looking at that. They can also help to tell a story about the other things that are going on in your body. So what we look at is the ratio between the two, and ideally the ratio should be 1:1. So if you're looking at your D3, your calciferol, your cholecalciferol, ideally you want those numbers to be about the same, pretty close. So imbalances can tell us things. So if you have a high storage compared to the low active, that can tell you that your body's having a little bit of an issue converting it for some reason. Which gives us clues, because there's a lot of different things that can be involved that can inhibit that conversion. If you know that's a problem, you know to go digging a little bit deeper. You know, in functional and holistic, you know, anything kind of health, wellness, what we are taught is to ask why, until you can't ask why anymore. That's when you get to the root cause of the problem. So keep asking why. If your storage is low, and then the active is high, a lot of times that can be due to stress in the body. It can be due to infections. So that kind of guides you into like, okay, so my vitamin D isn't working quite right. Why? You know? Okay, so these are imbalanced. Maybe I have a gut infection. Maybe I need to start, my digestion has sucked, you know, for the last couple of months, and maybe I need to look and see if there's an imbalance in gut bacteria. So it provides us clues. If both are low, you are deficient. That's a true vitamin D deficiency. So if you go get your lab test and it comes back and your vitamin D level is at 29, the doctor's going to say you have low vitamin D, you need to go supplement. I would ask a little bit more before starting to eat. I'm like, okay, well, why is my vitamin D low? Am I getting enough sunshine? Am I digesting? Am I eating foods that have, you know, nutrients in them, or am I eating Burger King every day? You know, so it helps you to, you know, dig a little bit deeper and understand what's really going on in your body. So vitamin D is team, which a lot of times these will come in the foods that you're eating with vitamin D. Vitamin A, we talked about vitamin A, is also a fat-soluble vitamin. Without vitamin A, we don't have an RXR receptor. Without the RXR receptor, vitamin D's receptor can't do its thing. You can take all the vitamin D you want, and it's just not going to work. And so you might actually end up with toxicity, because now it's just building up in your system. Vitamin K2, how many people know about vitamin K2? Right. And what are you told about that with vitamin D?
I read it online when I was researching arterial calcium buildup.
Okay. Yeah. So vitamin K2, so a lot of times people will say, and a lot of my clients come in right now, well, I'm taking vitamin D, but I know you have to take K2 with it, and there's a reason for that. And it's exactly what you said. So vitamin K2 comes from green leafy vegetables. We get a lot of it from green leafy vegetables. It's also a fat-soluble vitamin. Vitamin K2 I call this air traffic control. It helps to tell calcium where to go and where not to go. And then magnesium, I could stand up here for about 5 hours and talk about magnesium, but that would be boring. So I'm not going to talk a lot about it now, but it's pretty much needed for everything that goes on. It has direct and indirect connections to vitamin D. Magnesium helps calcium. Magnesium is needed for the liver to be able to convert the vitamin D into the cholecalciferol, so it's needed for conversion. It's needed for nervous system regulation. It's needed for so many different things that if they're not working, then vitamin D is not going to work either. And I put this yummy chocolate there because you actually should magnesium for chocolate. So I'm giving you an excuse to eat chocolate.
I was gonna say, it looks like candy bar.
I love chocolate. So the BDR and RXR, the unsung heroes, I kind of already covered on this a little bit earlier, but those are really the two receptors that are doing the vitamin D thing that we need vitamin D for. So again, the active form of vitamin D enters the cell. Calcitriol binds to the vitamin D receptor, VDR. VDR pairs with RXR, so they become a couple, which is also called a complex, which couples can be complex. So, so the RXR receptor is activated by vitamin D, the retinoic acid, which again, we get from animal fat. We get vitamin A from plants too, but it's palmitate, and it's a different form than what we can use. Our body can use it, but it requires additional steps. So I'm not anti-vegetarian or anything like that, but sometimes it's important to know these things, especially if you do have imbalances. So if you don't eat meat, then supplementation actually might be a really good idea for you. So the pair move into the nucleus, and here they turn on and off genes that regulate immune function. So they turn on genes. Genes make enzymes, and enzymes make things or take things apart. In this case, they make immune cells. So if you go to your doctor, you get your lab panel, you'll see white blood cells, monocytes, eosinophils, basophils. We have those because of this. So our body makes them based on what vitamin D tells them to do. Vitamin D also helps to balance cancer cell proliferation. So tumors, sometimes are because cancer cells have gone out of control. They're replicating and the body gets confused and there's a lot going on and it thinks it has to protect itself. So cancer cell proliferation can go out of control. Vitamin D helps to put a lid on that. It kind of helps to regulate how cells are repeating themselves, making copies of themselves. So it's important for that. Important for hormone balance. So we'll test estrogen, we'll test testosterone, progesterone, but what happens with those hormones is they go through the liver and other enzymes in the body, and they get broken down into other hormonal metabolites. There's a test that I do that looks at all this stuff, and those hormonal metabolites that nobody's looking at are doing things in the body. Sometimes they're doing more things in the body than the actual estrogen or testosterone or progesterone. Vitamin D helps to regulate how those hormones are being broken down and how they're being used. We know that vitamin D helps with calcium balance. It also helps with bile acid metabolism. So we need bile to digest fats, and so we need good quality bile to digest fats. So old bile sometimes will get recycled through the system, and sometimes we don't want that. We want to get rid of the old bile so we have good, healthy bile. Bile is like it's kind of like I call it an antimicrobial dish soap. It's like Dawn cuts grease out of the way. That's what it does when you eat fat. It goes in and it mixes with the fat, and it helps to emulsify the fat so the fat blobs kind of break down a little bit. And then the pancreas sends in lipase. Lipase pops the little free fatty acids off the fat. So now the fat it goes from a big thing to a small thing, and the small thing is what we absorb, and that's what the body uses. So vitamin D helps keep that bile nice and healthy. So again, I already told you all about this, but if you want a copy of this presentation, this is a really cool visual that kind of takes you through the steps on how the vitamin D receptor works. So again, sunlight gets converted into the D3, gets activated in the liver and kidneys. The binding site here, so this is once this VDR receptor goes inside of the cell, it binds with the vitamin D, and then it goes over here and it sticks to the little nucleotides in the DNA, causing that on-off, that flip switch process. Yeah, take a picture of that, that's good. Where then it influences immune function, calcium balance, inflammation, and cellular communication. So I'm a total woo-woo person, and I meditate every day, usually about for an hour. And in my meditation, sometimes I receive information, guidance, and just really cool stuff from whoever it is up there that's helping us, angels, divine energies. A couple weeks ago, I was meditating, and you know, I'm always like pondering, like, what's my purpose? Where did I come from? Why am I here? What are we doing? And I think everyone's probably asked that question at one point in time. And the answer that I got was that you are light transcribed through DNA. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. I wrote it down. And so as I was doing this presentation, and I created this slide, I looked at it and I'm like, dang, it's true. And I can prove it. Literally, we are light being transcribed through all of these processes through DNA. And that's how we're being made. The DNA is what makes our cells and tells them what to do. So I just thought that was a beautiful thing, so I had to share it with you. So calcium, so this is really important because we're all, you know, wanting to make sure that we have nice healthy bones. So calcium needs vitamin K2, and so here I just wanted to illustrate that. So vitamin D, especially when you're taking it orally, either through food or a lot of supplements, it increases calcium absorption through the intestines. So vitamin D helps us to absorb calcium. And is that good or bad? It's both. So it's good, but if you've got too much calcium coming in, that could be bad. And so again, it's neither good nor bad. We want balance. So when we do absorb that calcium, do we think that that calcium goes directly to the bones? We're taking vitamin D, we're absorbing our calcium, we're taking calcium supplements, we're eating dairy foods. Does the calcium go, hey, I'm here, I need to go find the bones? All by itself? No. And so this gentleman here was doing the research, and he learned that vitamin K helps the calcium to know where to go. So, and how it does that. So vitamin K activates certain proteins in the body that help to pull calcium into the bones. Osteocalcin is one of those proteins. And so when vitamin K binds up to osteocalcin, osteocalcin goes and grabs onto the calcium and brings it into the bones. Calcium also activates another protein. It's called matrix GLA protein, MGP. This is found in the blood vessels and the soft tissues of the body. And so when that protein gets activated, it prevents calcium from depositing in your arteries and in your soft tissues. One cool thing about calcium is that it's a repair. With that,
Which is what he needs, not going in the arteries.
yes, and so they have actually done studies, and you can look it up on PubMed, where they have given people with atherosclerosis vitamin K, good doses of vitamin K, and it literally took that calcium deposit out of the arteries. So that information is out there. So calcium, because it wants to fix things, and one of the reasons why it can go into the veins and arteries is because it will go to the site of inflammation. It wants to heal things. It will literally pave over, it's kind of like a Band-Aid. If you've got an area of irritation or inflammation or damage in the body, calcium will go in and kind of pave over it. That's why you have those calcium plaque deposits that happen, and then sometimes they break off, and that's not good news. So it wants to help you. It's trying to help you. It's trying to help you heal. It calms down inflammation. Calcium is a calming mineral. It's a sedative mineral like magnesium. So it wants to calm down the nervous system and allow it to heal itself. So if you've got inflammation in the cardiovascular system, or if you have inflammation in your kidneys, or if you have inflammation in your gallbladder, sometimes calcium, if you don't have enough K and A, sometimes calcium will go, I can be helpful, I'll go there. And sometimes it will start to form things like kidney stones, which is not supposed to be fun. I never had one, I'm a big word. But gallstones, sometimes it can go to an area of inflammation, like structurally in the body, and you can end up with a bone spur, which my ex-husband thought was called a bone spurt. And so, so now every time I say spur, I'm thinking about him. Bone spurt.
I have a question for
Yeah.
you. I had parathyroid surgery.
Okay, yeah.
My doc said there was too much calcium.
Yeah.
So now what happens as I get older? They never said anything about taking K2 or A.
Yeah.
But I do eat a lot of green spinach.
Yeah, that's good. And yeah, there's a lot of different things that can go on with that area of the body. Sometimes, and we'll actually parathyroid hormone, we did talk about that. It gets activated by the VDR. So it could be maybe there was some sort of a signaling thing where that VDR thought that it had to go because we needed calcium somewhere. Maybe there was another, issue going on in the body that it was trying to compensate for. So again, I would keep asking why. Well, why? I also do energy healing as well. And the parathyroid are 6 little glands that live on the back of the actual thyroid gland, which is the throat chakra. And the throat chakra is communication, it's self-expression. So sometimes if there is too much energy in a certain area, the physical organ or cells or functions of the body can be overexpressed. So sometimes it can be like, well, I'm trying to tell somebody something and I'm like ad nauseum repeating myself over and over and nobody's hearing me. So that can be an archetypal theme regarding the throat chakra. And it could be from the past, it can be in the present. So that's something that I do when I work with people. I look at the different levels because I keep asking why until you can't ask why anymore. And if you keep doing that, you always find your way to God. Pretty much always. And on the process there, you find your way through the energy and the emotions and all that stuff too. So vitamin D can be blocked. I mean, now we know that there's a whole lot going on with vitamin D. So there is the fancy car with all the bells and whistles. There's a lot that can go wrong. Some of the main things that can block vitamin D are endotoxins from bacteria. So certain bacteria make inflammatory toxins, not all bacteria do. And it's not even like they're bad bacteria, but sometimes we just have too many of them, and so our body is these bacteria are overproducing these toxins that can go into our system and travel around the body. Some of those endotoxins can inactivate the active form of calcitriol. They're like, vitamin D, or talk about vitamin D. So sometimes if we are seeing imbalances in our gut bacteria, or not gut bacteria, in our vitamin D levels and we're not sure why, that's where looking at the active form versus the storage form and the blood test that we were talking about can be helpful. Because if you know if they're high or low, it could possibly mean that maybe you do have a gut infection and now we need to look at digestion, we need to look at what's going on in your gut. Other types of infections too, Lyme disease, EBV, which is Epstein-Barr virus, Wi-Fi. So, Wi-Fi. 30 years ago, did you ever talk about vitamin D? Did anybody talk about vitamin D 30 years ago? Who cared about vitamin D? Now we have this Wi-Fi everywhere and everyone's got vitamin D issues. So we are being bathed in these frequencies. So toxins, these things, electromagnetic fields actually deactivate the vitamin D receptor, which makes it harder for us to do all the things that vitamin D does, because that's really the star of the show. Stress, so the cell danger response, CDR is a fancy way of saying fight or flight. There is a doctor, researcher, Robert Navio, that coined the term cell danger response. What that means is that when the body perceives stress, and it can be mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, it can be a toxin, it can be environmental, the body kind of switches metabolically from healing and growth and repair and communication and happiness and balanced nervous system function to, I gotta go to war. And so everything changes. The way the cells function change completely. They go into protection mode, defense mode, survival mode, catabolic mode. And catabolic means breaking things down. The body starts to break down tissues to release things that it needs to maintain a stress response, to maintain your ability to run from danger. So it will take whatever it needs, and it's like, I don't care if you digest your cheeseburger right now, we gotta run from the bear, So survival always wins, because if you're dead, all of these wonderful things that happen in your body don't matter anymore. And so, bye, thank you. So so this affects the functions of vitamin D. So when more backfires, so a lot of times, I'll see clients come in that maybe have had a diagnosis of osteopenia or osteoporosis, and they're trying to figure out what to do with it. I had a lady, her doctor told her that her bones were like almost dust, that she was so far into osteoporosis that she was, in trouble, and they wanted her to do the, shots and all this stuff, and she didn't want to do that, so she came to see me, and we did a hair tissue mineral analysis, which is what this is. So we took just a tiny little bit of hair, we sent it off to the lab, and the lab analyzed it and told us how much calcium, how much magnesium, sodium, potassium, copper, zinc, phosphorus, all of this stuff, heavy metals were in the hair, and hair is a soft tissue. So soft tissues sometimes are a better way of looking at what's going on in your body, because your body regulates your blood. Because if your blood goes off balance too much, you will die. So it will keep your blood looking pretty good, but the real story can sometimes show up in the soft tissues, because it'll sort of slough all the toxins away someplace else to keep it away from the blood and the important organs. So we see it in the hair. So hair is really cool like that. We take 1 inch of hair, it takes about 3 months for an inch of hair. So not only do we see a whole 3-month picture in the hair analysis, we get to see all of this stuff that's going on. Whereas a blood test, you're looking at a snapshot in time. You're just seeing what's happening right now. So the hair analysis is cool, and it's super cheap, and you get a ton of information. So functional testing, this thing is really cool. So she was taking gobs and gobs of vitamin D because the doctor said, you have osteoporosis, you need vitamin D, right? Polarity, take this for that. And so when we did our hair analysis, her calcium was off the chart. It was so high, and so that was showing us that all of that calcium that she was absorbing from the vitamin D was not getting to her bones. It was going into her soft tissues and causing issues in other places. I took her off the vitamin D, gave her some vitamin K, some vitamin A. We worked on her nutrition. She was eating the wrong diet for her metabolic type, which we can also see in the hair analysis. And then she called me like 2 years later. I didn't hear from her, she moved. I just want you to know that I'm no longer osteoporosis. I have gone into osteopenia. So she started going backwards. So that was really cool. Yeah, so when we have too much calcium in the system, because a lot of what's going on in our system relies on water and fluid, so that's kind of our main transportation, is the canal system in our body. When we have too much calcium, that water gets thicker. So we add calcium to concrete to make it harder. So we turn those fluids that are moving and flowing, they can become a little bit thicker. And so your hormones and all of the things that are swimming through trying to get to where they need to go and find their receptors, it can make it harder. So instead of swimming through water, now they're swimming through mud. So that can cause you to gain weight, because now your metabolism is going to slow down, because now it's going to be hard for your thyroid hormone to get where it needs to go, especially if you have a low phosphorus, a high calcium to phosphorus ratio. Your hormones are going to have a hard time getting where they need to go. And then we talked about this already. You might end up with a kidney stone or a gallstone, or find that this calcium is being deposited someplace that you don't really want it to go. So assessing vitamin D, we just talked about that HTMA, that hair analysis. One thing I wanted to talk about, lead. Lead displaces calcium. Lead to your calcium sites, the little kind of the keyhole to the key, is the same shape as calcium. And so if you have lead toxicity, that lead can park right in, and literally like a key in an ignition, it can plug itself where the calcium is supposed to go, but it won't start the car. So sometimes, and then the calcium's like, wait a minute, that was my spot. And so it can get displaced, and you can have problems due to having too much lead in your system. Talk to Dr. Hickey about that. He's the master chelator. He will talk to you all day about lead. So assessing vitamin D. So again, there's a lot that we need to look at. The first thing I like to do with my clients, I have a conversation. What's going on with your diet? What supplements are you taking? Are you under a lot of stress right now? Do you have infections? Do you have inflammation? Are you going outside? Are you working too much? Are you indoors all of the time? Are you sedentary? Is your digestion feeling okay? What are your symptoms? Why are you here? We also do energetic assessment. I look at the body from an energetic perspective. I have tools that I can use to measure, detect, and correct energetic imbalances in the body. I can also ask the body things like, what can I help you with today? And it will give me information. So these are some other ways that you can do. So typically when I do my energy testing, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool, but let's also do some blood tests too. Let's do some other tests. I like to have all that information. So we'll we'll do the calcidiol. So this is the normal vitamin D test that everybody does. Calcitriol, that's the active form, the one that we were talking about. You can also test your calcium. So just in a regular blood panel, you can get a lot of information. Your calcium can give you clues. Your phosphorus levels can give you clues. Your electrolytes can give you clues. Your proteins, your blood proteins can give you clues. We get to see, liver function in a regular run-of-the-mill, CBC metabolic panel. So we'll get your liver enzymes. Bilirubin we measure. Sometimes that can give us insight into gallbladder function, cholesterol, and especially the breakdown sometimes can give us more clues about how your body is using vitamin D and the other environmental dispositions that are going on around it. We're looking at inflammation. If you've got inflammatory markers through the roof, if your C-reactive protein is really high, we want to know if that's in your cardiovascular system or where that's coming from. So these are all important things to help us to see the whole picture. Hair analysis, we talked about that. Stool testing assesses for fat digestive capacity among a gazillion other things, including those bacteria that make the toxins that can deactivate the vitamin D receptor. So I do a lot of stool testing because your gut is pretty much Grand Central Station to everything that happens in your body. If your gut isn't working right, sure enough, things are going to go wrong in the area. So Dutch testing, I do a lot of Dutch testing too. The Dutch testing, we talked about how your hormones, you've got estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, you've got these parent hormones, you can see that in the blood test, but it's a snapshot in time. You can take that blood test again an hour later and your estrogen might be like this. So things can vary widely in blood. The urine test is a 12-hour collection, so we're getting to see over time what's going on with your hormones and how they are being utilized and broken down in the body. It lines up with your enzymes, so it gives us genetic information of how you're coded to break down estrogen. There's 4 different pathways for estrogen. And one of those pathways is 3 times stronger than the parent estrogen hormone. It's doing more stuff than estrogen itself, and we're not looking at that. If that's imbalanced, if you have too much of the 4-hydroxyestradiol or estrone, you could be having female-related inflammatory issues, fibrocystic problems, and cancers can sometimes be because we have too much of that. So we get to see how all of these things are playing out in your system. Genetic testing, I don't think I like it anymore. I used to like genetic testing. I did 23andMe and my whole family because I plug that information. I asked the company to give me the raw data. I upload it to interpretation software that breaks down all of those genes and how they're functioning in the body. If you have, the 2 bad genes, 1 bad gene, it kind of gives us clues about what's happening in your system. The MTHFR that everybody talks about, we get to see that information. Genetic testing also shows us what's happening with your vitamin D receptor, which is a protein. Enzymes make proteins, and so if you have a defect in one of those enzymes, that can give you a clue, like maybe why you constantly have low vitamin D. So we can get a lot of information through the genetic testing. If you've done an ancestry or 23andMe, you can request that raw data, and we can get all of that information. I wouldn't recommend you going out and doing it again because I don't know what they're doing with all of our genetic information. I don't really trust them anymore. But if you've already done one, the damage is already done, so you might as well get the benefit out of it. So that can be a very interesting thing to do. And again, it's like super cheap to do that. So energetic and spiritual. So because I worked with a lot of people, and I realized that no 2 people are alike, even biochemically. Every thought, every feeling, every emotion, every experience forms the body. Your body stores every single thing that ever happened to you. There's a memory of it, which makes us all completely different. And so I realized pretty quickly that you can have like 10 people lined up, they all have the same, on the surface, same symptoms. Even their lab tests can be the same, but they have all arrived at that issue differently, and there's a different protocol for every person. I wrote out all these protocols. I'm like, this is going to be so efficient. This person's going to come in with this, and I'm going to tell them to do that. And that, I never gave a single person protocol that I pre-wrote. Everybody gets a custom protocol for me. And I started to learn that, with working with gut health and diet, nutrition, I thought I was going to save the world with nutrition. Like, I got it all figured I'm gonna do these lab tests, and I've got it all under control. And that didn't work. Sometimes it did, which is why I stayed with it. But a lot of times, no matter what we did for the person, they wouldn't get better. Like nothing would change. And they had worked with other people, not just me. Some people that are like famous. I had somebody who had worked with Mark Hyman, who came to see me and they couldn't figure it out. So I'm also an empath. So I started to notice that my clients would come in with something, like a symptom, like hemorrhoid. Never had a hemorrhoid a day in my life. The next morning I would wake up with their symptoms. Ew, that's Joe's hemorrhoid. So, and I started meditating when I was 19. I was trained and taught by an enlightened being in California and kind of stuck with it forever. And he told me, he goes, Hollie, you are my most sensitive student. I could feel his thoughts and we could communicate with his mind to mind. And I kind of put all of that aside for a long time. Became a mom and busy businesswoman, real estate agent, all that stuff. So here I am working with these clients, absorbing all of their issues. And I'm like, I think I can use this to benefit. There's got to be like this is a superpower that I haven't tapped into. And so I put the call out to the universe and I said, show me the way. And within 2 days, somebody sent me a video of a guy who had all these issues, chronic health stuff. He went on a journey for like 2 years. He documented the whole thing, everything that he did, the supplements, the doctors, the lab tests, the this, the that. He ended up at a doctor who took a little bit of blood and started measuring the blood. And he was asking questions like, is this a vitamin deficiency? Is this a nutrient deficiency? Is this something related to the mouth? And the antenna moved. It's the mouth. Is it a mercury filling? Is it a cavitation? Is it an infection? It is an infected root canal. Which tooth? And he scanned them, and it was the two front teeth. He goes, do you have any issues with your two front teeth? He goes, yeah, they're both root canals. So prior to getting sick, he got punched in the face saving a damsel in distress. And he had to have these root canals put in, and they were infected. And so that was what endotoxins. He had all these toxins running through his system, so he got them removed. He did go to a biological dentist who was like, yeah, these things are bad. Took them out, put in a bridge, and he got better. I'm like, I want that thing. So I sought this out from a lady in Scotland. You can't buy this in the United States. So I tracked her down, and she trained me and kind of introduced me to the ACMOS method, which I'm now one of the few ACMOS bioenergeticians in the United States. So I follow the whole process where I can go through, I take measurements, we get baseline information using this tool and some other tools that I have as well. So we get scientific quantum data, geeky stuff, and then we go through and we ask your body, well, how do I help you today? And your energy, your energetic wisdom guides us through a whole process. It tells us what to use, how to use it, when to use it, and then at the end we apply everything that we're told to do. We go through and we take those measurements again. We can prove that we've made the change that we set out to do. And so what it does is it rebalances and opens up the lines of communication. Again, our bodies are intelligent biochemical machines that house your spirit. And so if the information isn't firing, if there's blockages, if you're holding on to some anger or resentment's in the gallbladder. So if you've got an inflamed gallbladder because you will not forgive somebody, and you're still pissed off because they did you wrong, then you might not be absorbing your vitamin D. So it all connects. So I look at things at all of these different levels. You can go, okay, well, I have a gallbladder problem, like I just said, so maybe decision making is one of the archetypal energetic emotional functions of the gallbladder. Where in your life are you like scared to change? Or maybe you're faced with a couple of decisions and you just don't know which direction to go in. Courage, action, resentment is one of the things. Indecision, hesitation, self-doubt, moving forward with clarity and confidence, those can all affect the gallbladder, those types of emotions. Bones are our structure, they're our strength. So where in your life are you not feeling strong or supported? Where has your support system kind of broken down a little bit? Bones, have to do with your core identity, ancestral support, deep structure, feeling supported, ancestral burden. So a lot of ancestral stuff can also be stored in the bones. We are genetic, but we are also information carried down through the family line. So our bodies will respond to certain things based on the information of our ancestors. So like if your ancestors 200 years ago went through a period of starvation, that there wasn't enough food, but sometimes our bodies will hold on to nutrients because it's scared that one day there might not be enough food. And so these things can affect us. So I like to look at all of this stuff. The sun, so the essence, life force, it's our truth, it's our illumination, it's our vitality. So that's, vitamin D, our sunshine vitamin. So, and because the universe is so cool and it's always listening, I got on my email this morning and this is what popped up. I kid you not. And this is a newspaper. This is not like Facebook listening to me or Twitter or Instagram. This is a newspaper that came out. Vitamin D's effects decades later. And so I followed that. And there all of these studies. These are like 2005 to 2006. There have been a lot of vitamin D studies. And when I went through all of these different studies, they all said the same thing I said in my presentation. Yes. I asked ChatGPT and they're like, you nailed it. So, but it was cool, and it was just kind of like a validation of things. But basically, it's all saying the same thing. That, it's not as simple as just taking another supplement and all of your vitamin D issues and calcium and immune problems are going to go away. Vitamin D's impact really depends on how the body uses and receives information in a signal. So that's my miscellany. Ta-da! So considerations again, vitamin D and how it functions has to do with context and what other things are going on in your body. Your influences can affect it. Also dose and level dependent. So one of those studies had to do with that vitamin D, I think, prevented morbidity before a certain age, but not for everyone. Only for some people, and only if they were taking the right dose. If they took too much, then that could have the opposite effect. So it really said the exact same thing. It really had to do with how much, so if you do need a supplement, some people do benefit from the supplements, they really do. We want to make sure you're not doing too much. I have people coming in, I take 50,000 IUs every day for the last 10 years. I'm like, no! So sometimes I'll have them change the dose to maybe 10,000 IUs and maybe only 2 or 3 times a week. Or maybe only take it in the winter if you are in the sun more often in the summertime. So that's what I usually do. If somebody in the house gets sick, I take my vitamin D. And I take it at night too because it supports the serotonin pathway and it can help you sleep. So timing is also important with vitamin D. You want to take it with food because you need to be able to digest it. Yes,
I heard that it was better to take it in the morning because it can keep you up at night, but you're saying...
It depends.
Okay.
It depends.
Okay.
So you have to play with that, and there's some truth to it. So vitamin D does support the serotonin pathway, but it also has an influence on melatonin, and if you have a certain genetic variant, sometimes that goes through and it suppresses the melatonin, and it can actually make it harder for you to sleep, but that's not for everybody.
Okay.
So you kind of have to play with it. So take it at night to see how you feel. Take it, if you don't sleep well, then take it in the morning.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, we're all like so different. Again, it's not this way or that way, it just depends on the person. So that's where the energy healing helps to come in, because sometimes it helps to take some of the guesswork out, because a lot of this is guesswork. We don't know how our body's gonna respond to anything that we eat or do or think or feel. So we have to sometimes try, but we wanna make as educated of a decision as we possibly can. So for optimum health, again, ask why until you can't ask why anymore. The body has a language, it's talking to you all of the time, it's translating everything that's going on. So you can learn to listen. You can take your mind to an area of being, and if you get really, really still and listen, it will tell you exactly what is wrong. It'll tell exactly what it is that it wants you to pay attention to. Sometimes, like for me, I will get issues here, like in the liver gallbladder area, and if I go there, my little child self comes up, I wanna play. She always says, I wanna play more. And usually it's when I'm not when I'm working too much and not taking any time for myself. And so she'll say, I want to carve, and I'm gonna go to the beach. And if I do those things, the pain goes away. So, and I can tell you lots of stories about that. I teach people how to do this. So our bodies are communicating to us through our physical senses, and also through our biochemistry. Every thought creates a chemical reaction. So if you think poopy thoughts, you're gonna feel poopy. If you think positive, happy thoughts, you're gonna feel better. And you can train yourself to do that. We are kind of wired to go straight to fear. That's what our society has kind of implemented in our minds. You think about, well, what you do every day, well, I really need to go here because if I don't, then this is going to happen. You know, so that's kind of where our brain tends to go. Like this week, my whole schedule cleared, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm out of business, I'm going to run out of money. You know, I went straight into kind of this fear thing, and I'm like, no, wait a minute, what do I tell my clients? I now have a whole week to work on all of these things that I have not had any time to do. I also have a little bit of time to go sit in the sun, which I did yesterday because I felt like a hypocrite. I went to the pool for an hour on a Tuesday, and I'm laying there going, this is really bad, I should be working, I should finish my presentation, I gotta pay bills, I gotta do all these things, and I'm like, just relax. And it was great, and I had a very nice thing, and I still got everything done. So good health isn't achieved through logic and science alone, there's more to it. So, and this is probably how you feel right now. Like, okay, now I'm more confused about vitamin D than I was when I got here. And there's a lot of information out there, and you know, a lot of it's very compelling. There are a lot of like chiropractors and doctors out there talking about, you know, Dr. Gundry talking about lectins and all this stuff. And typically, if they're selling something, don't listen to them, because they're trying to sell you something. If a doctor says, this is how it goes, and everybody needs this, and that doctor has not worked with more than 2 clients or patients in his entire life. Because anybody that has worked with more 2 patients or clients in their entire life will know that everybody's different, and there is no good, bad, and this works for everybody, and this doesn't. They're selling you something. So it's hard, and I have a lot of clients come in, and they're like, I don't know what to eat, you know, this doctor says this, and this doctor says this, and this doctor says that, now there's nothing left. Like, everything is bad. And you can vilify everything out there if you really want to. And a lot of times the science actually aims to do just that. So it's very difficult to know what's going on. But hopefully with this information, you'll know that you actually have pathways. There are ways that you can do the investigation to figure out what it is that your body needs. Because again, we're all different. I help people with that. So this is my little plug. So functional nutrition with lab testing. So the tests that we put up here that I talked about, I can order those. There are other practitioners out there that do this stuff too. It's actually becoming more common. When I first started, there was nobody doing it. And I was in real estate, and I was sick, and I wanted to work with somebody locally, and there wasn't anybody. And I made myself really sick by listening to the information online about what to do. I almost ended up in the emergency room 3 times. And so the 3rd time, I was like, I should probably go to school. If I'm going to keep doing this to myself, I should probably learn how to do it the right way. And nobody else is doing this here. So I could be that, I could fill that gap. And but now there are people popping up everywhere, people moving to you know, the area. So this stuff is available, and it is here, whether through me or somebody else. So energy assessment, so that's another pathway. Pathway 1 and pathway 2, oftentimes we do both. My clients will come in, we'll look at their biochemistry, we'll do their assessment, we'll come up with a protocol, but then they'll come in and do an energy healing as well, because if your body's wires are crossed this way and that, and the communication and the signals aren't happening correctly, you can be doing the right foods, you can be doing the right lifestyle stuff, you can be taking all the right supplements, but your body might not be able to use it as efficiently as it should. So these 2 things pair very well. You cannot look at one without the other if you really want optimum health. And then pathway 3 is do it yourself. And so a lot of times I'll work with people, we'll get the labs, we'll kind of have a good idea about what it is that's going on in their body and in their energy, and then they get going on their own. But you know, when I give a protocol, usually it's, you know, 3 months, 2 months, sometimes it's, you know, 6 weeks or something like that. And then what happens is they feel better and they stop, and then they're like, now what? You know? And I don't want people to have to keep coming back to me because I'm a terrible business person. I would make too much money that way. So I want to teach people how to then navigate going forward. So that's my Self-Empowering Healer program. And what we do is I teach you how to tap into your own body wisdom. I teach you how to communicate with the different parts of yourself. I teach you various different ways to do things like I do with the antenna, but with different tools, with the pendulum. You can biotest, you can scan with the supplement, like, okay, is the cell phone good for me? No. So if I hold a supplement to my chest and ask, do I need to take my probiotic today? Is this going to be beneficial to me? I just lean forward. I should have taken my probiotic this morning. Your body will give you information. It will move certain ways, like a pendulum. So I teach people how to do that and help them practice with it. I teach them how to ask the right questions. Sometimes the way you ask the question will influence the information that you get back. Sometimes there is no answer to a question. So I teach people how to navigate the questioning. I also give people my life's work. I have a whole series of spreadsheets that have pretty much anything that could go wrong in the body and pretty much every remedy there is out there. And so what I'll do with my antenna is I'll tune into their energy and I'll just go down the list. Okay, is this a gut issue? Is it low stomach acid and poor bile? And then what do we do? Okay, so we can take some apple cider vinegar, some betaine, hydrochloric acid, and some taurine. And so the antenna will kind of give me resonance over the things that will help the person. So I teach you guys how to do that in your own way, using like a muscle testing technique or even the spray method. And I give you all of my sheets. I created a booklet out of it. And so you just go through, is there anything on this page relating to my health condition today? And if you get a yes, you go down the columns and you can get that information yourself. I teach you how to meditate so that they can go within. So ideally, I think that's where we're going. I think it's time in history where we start to take autonomy and control over our health. For so long, we have given all of our power away to doctors, and it's like, here, I don't feel good, fix me. And that's not how it's working anymore, and it's actually not working anymore. And so that's why people are coming to people like me, because they've gone to the conventional medical model and they're still not better. Because that is the universe guiding us back to ourselves. It's time to take that control back, because our bodies are talking to us. And if we really want to be healthy, we can learn to listen to the messages, because through these symptoms, they are guiding us to our best life. And if we don't pay attention, it will keep knocking. So, let's see. Do I have more? Yeah, that's me. And so, I offer free 20-minute discovery sessions. So if you have questions or if you're interested in anything, want to talk to me about any of the programs or lab tests, you're free to give me a call and I will talk to you for 20 minutes. Everything I do takes longer than 20 minutes, so you'll have a free 45-minute conversation. This is my information. I do have my tablet and a page over here. If you want a copy of this presentation, I would be happy to email it to you. If you leave your name and email there, I will send it out to you, and also the bullet points as well. Yeah, so that was fun. I hope I didn't bore you with that.
I read that you have to take vitamin D with B.
Okay.
Vitamin B, is it?
You don't have to take them together, but they do work together in direct and indirect ways. Vitamin D is a water-soluble vitamin. There's actually like 18 different forms of vitamin D. So it just depends on what your body needs. If your body does need vitamin B, and I can see where that connects. So that's probably for somebody with cardiovascular concerns. So vitamin D helps to keep with the vitamin K, keep that calcification out. The B vitamins help to break down certain inflammatory chemicals. One is called homocysteine. A lot of people have a genetic variant that causes their homocysteine to go high. Homocysteine, when it gets too high, builds up in the cardiovascular system. Vitamin B, B12, and also folate, vitamin B9, I believe, help to break down that homocysteine. They support the regulation of that inflammatory chemical. So that's probably why those two came together there.
Also, vitamin K, it's very dangerous because it's making our blood
Too thin. If you do too much of it, and if you're taking blood thinners, then you have to be really careful with vitamin K. But it's not dangerous, so it could be, but it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with it. So again, it's like trying to be open-minded and not going too far either way. So it just depends on the person. Yeah.
I was told that my aging skin isn't absorbing vitamin D and I need a supplement. What's your opinion on that? My aging
Probably
skin.
bullshit.
Thank you.
I mean, we are made perfectly. We are made perfectly.
Old
If your
skin.
body doesn't want that vitamin D, then maybe our skin changes for a reason. I mean, if you look at the different cultures around the world that have different color skin, like people from Africa have dark color skin, they were in the sun more. So they needed to be able to protect so they didn't make too much vitamin D. So our bodies know how to adapt and regulate.
vitamin D is the same as a vitamin D3?
Well, there's different forms of vitamin D. So there's D2 that comes from the mushrooms, the D3 we get from the sun, and also from food and supplements.
But you take vitamin D3 is the same as vitamin D?
Pretty much. I mean, sometimes there's different forms that you can get in vitamin D. I always look for the D3, the cholecalciferol. I think you can actually buy vitamin D2. I don't know why anybody would do that. It's cheap and they're just selling it as vitamin D, and so so make sure it's vitamin D3.
Yes.
Yeah, and then again, make sure that you need it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just want to say that I've had our care thing done, the sample, back in 2018, it was under $100 back then. And then a few other people that I work with had it done, and I guess their husband's insurance or whoever else's insurance covered it, mine didn't.
Right.
But, I had to pay, I guess they paid a certain part of it, whatever.
Because I was.
Okay, yeah, for that, I do, it's $185, that includes the test, and I give you the.
It's a piece of the doctor.
So if you're taking vitamin D just as a supplement, should you be taking K and A as well, or is there one pill that has all three?
There are pills that have all three, but again, it depends on your body and kind of what's going on. I probably would not, if you're gonna supplement, if you feel intuitively that you need vitamin D and you're gonna supplement, I would make sure you're getting some vitamin A from somewhere. Whether eating a plenty good amount of green leafy vegetables, or you get it with the vitamin D. There are different forms of K that you can get in supplements. The K2, there's one that I really like. It's called Mega Quinone. Mega Quinone is really good. It's a very easy to absorb form of vitamin K that works really well with the vitamin D. So,
And what about
good
magnesium?
quality. I tell people, don't go to Costco and get your vitamins. Go on, one of the more high quality websites, or you can call me. I will hook you up with full script, and you'll have access to every professional brand out there. And help discount.
So what about magnesium?
Yeah.
Should you be taking that as a normal course of things, or just depends on how much?
Again, it depends, and there are different forms of magnesium. So if you're constipated, you take magnesium oxide or magnesium citrate. If you need to sleep, then you can take magnesium glycinate. Magnesium glycinate absorbs really well, so it has less of a digestive effect. Some magnesiums will stay in your intestines, and they're hydrophilic, meaning the water loves the magnesium will absorb water, and so that's how it has a laxative effect, because it will draw water into your gut. So magnesium glycinate absorbs better, it doesn't stay in the gut, so you have less of that water drawing into the gut. If you have hypertension and high blood pressure, sometimes magnesium taurate can be good because it's relaxing to the cardiovascular system. So is magnesium glycinate, but taurate can sometimes have a different effect. And then magnesium threonate crosses the blood-brain barrier. So if you got anxiety or your thoughts are going crazy and you can't sleep at night because you can't turn your brain off, maybe magnesium threonate. So that just depends.
Take it together, or at 1 a.m. and the other in the night?
Which one?
I mean, the G plus the K2 and magnesium, you have to take it together. You can take one in the morning and the other in the night.
Yeah, you can spread them out.
I
Yeah,
think
so,
that's what
yeah, but really take the fast soluble vitamins with the other one. Magnesium, I take it before bed at night.
I gotta go, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, well, it would be interesting to see what information they have. Yeah, you can do it either way. Sometimes I can't. You can't get quality.
Thank you so much. You too. Yeah, very, very shady, you know.
He is doing starting some of the the thing is that keeps all this entire treatment is not because it's expensive, it's long. And we don't know we will stay longer in this area. We are from Philadelphia. And so we stay here maybe until October still. I don't know. But they're never here. Everybody says that. I was like, like in supplements and diet. He had one because he did cardiology, yeah, we have oh, the day any water, yes, I don't want the whole that normally it's like the only way to do it fast, okay, that's not excuse. So he was looking for this kind of, more like oriented to the nutrition. They recommend take that vitamin D and K, but as you say, I would be on research and I don't know. I would need it or He has so much.
Alligator.
With the garage,
So we need.
Just that when David was calling, said, are you okay? I
So,
understand your charger call.
always. But we did that for him.
You know, mine, each side, they don't stack your.
And guys, husbands,
So,
daughters,
one side is on the.
Oh, okay.
I kind of work with them, like,
Did you use one? Yes,
Like,
connected to me, and it just, he came down.
I got to, oh, look, I have screwed down. I'm breaking up.
Because
And I'm now out 20 knees and we're doing you whatever knees. And I don't know, so we changed his alcohol. I took him from screwdrivers. So we gave him dirty.
Diabetes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So we switched him to dirty martini.
Okay.
And then lighter beer, and we just changed his diet and he lost his diabetes.
Yeah, you're in.
25 pounds and his
Oh, God, I would like to do that also on the hair too,
Yeah.
because I'm trying to
But
be,
anyway,
but not too
yeah,
much,
they're
but
gonna-
I guess I'm trying
beside
to
me.
exercise myself.
They go to Michigan.
Not frequently, but as much as I can. I do get a lot of water. Thank you. I do get a lot of water. So, just keep my diet under control and.
Pretty quiet.
Right
Right
there.
Yeah.
But just because
But you look forward to seeing on the cruise.
when I was born, I didn't get a tumor, and it was
Are you
removed,
gonna do
and
slots or
my
anything,
blood
or
was
make
like
cards or anything?
caught in a base.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that, yeah, it's
I
like.
took yoga when I was 20 years, so after that,
But also, when you run in a different country.
Yeah, I think this, on this cruise, I'm not gonna have to
Because we are so
just get my drinks in.
Yeah. Changes, your body's like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not used to this.
They said you shouldn't use.
so
it.
yeah, could be that, I'm glad you do that, hair test on me, so.
Give them a little tip, they coming back.
Okay,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
see, you mentioned
Oh,
something
I
about the
know me well.
Yeah, I think my phone, well, my
Even
phone's
the
all
damn
over
way,
the
I'm
place.
wrong,
You
you
just
can
call
stop
there,
this.
or you can text that number, you call and we'll schedule it for 20 minutes. You can do it online, so you can go to my website.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yes, because I said, his schedule, oh my goodness, and when you is off.
Yes, yes.
He's
Oh, yeah, we did that
late,
last
and he
year.
doesn't wanna wake up and do something, and, so, okay, I'm still working on that, and I just, this presentation, why you don't go with me? So now go on, let me know what you gotta do. No, really, I know. Okay, here, could you go here?
That's it. Ron don't drink.
Okay, perfect, and I
They
will,
said they had upgrades.
what is
So I was
his?
just, we were just at a restaurant, and we had balcony and all that. So we just sat there, we didn't want to, so we were sitting there, this gentleman come up and said, he was checking on package, so I was doing. And he said he learned his lesson last time, him and his wife got the package, she don't drink. He talked to someone when we first go in, he said, she's a diabetic, she can't drink, She said, that's okay, we'll just have you charge you. So that was very nice, that you, they let them do that.
You said they want a doctor's look, I don't know.
Yeah, on the phone, when you call, they do.
Yeah.
Because one time, my husband, Ron asked, he said, if you got some kind of notification from your doctor.
Okay, so I try to be.
I tried to be a good
Different group
representative.
like that, different, my sister, Molly, and they would cruise Princess a lot, but their, packages
Yeah.
include water
And
and all
tipping
that.
and all that, I like that.
Because my brother-in-law, he doesn't drink soda and water, Molly drinks her wine.
And I
So
like having my
they
water,
get the
yeah.
2 packages, but, you know.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah, I know, it's more expensive than the cruise.
When I see you, y'all take care.
Okay.
I go and see you, when I see you in the back. Well, in the back. Oh, we do it on there, you wanna do it here?
You can write it there, just sometimes I can't read people's handwriting, so that's
Okay.
really helpful.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, Holly, thanks again.
You're welcome. What's your name?
Vilma, Vivi.
Vilma,
Yeah,
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Holly. Okay.
Have
See
a
you
good
today.
day.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, real plain as I can.
Thank you. Sometimes I'm like, I have to look this
pictures.
Oh,
But we
cool.
only had like 5 people show up.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, good that many people